Hello, live at 5 after Liverpool drew 0-0 with Manchester United at Anfield in an absolutely shite game of football. Terrible performance, terrible game, terrible commentary from Roy Keane. Whatever it is you want us to get stuck into, throw it in the comments, let us know, and we shall be reading those comments all the way through. It was just I just thought the whole thing was an absolute anticlimax, really, wasn't it, mate? I mean, 7-0 last season, and there was a lot of tetchiness over the weekend from Reds with each other about, overconfidence this and overconfidence that, and someone said this in this article and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I sort of didn't get it myself. I was a bit like, if you beat someone 7-0 and you've won 5-0 and you beat them 4, you know what I mean? We've had a good record against them recently. We were top of the league going into the game. There's going to be some confidence. And just sometimes these games are shit. And this was one of the ones that was definitely shit. And obviously football is now doing its usual thing of, well, does that mean that's broken? Does this mean that this is broken? Is this a problem? Is this a problem? We talk about it all the time, don't we? There's that much football media that you've almost got to find these patterns or look for these patterns and say, is this a problem? That's the way football media has gone. But I'm not quite sort of burning everything down at this point. I think it was disappointing. We dominated the game. They come to spoil. They come for a point. And, they call themselves the biggest team in world football and all that kind of stuff. They looked like a side that had just been promoted, coming for a plucky draw. So how does that feel to them? I mean, I know they were happy enough with the points and they seemed to celebrate it as such and all the rest of it. And I guess given the two places of the two clubs right now, okay, kind of you would do. But I don't know. That's some fall from grace, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what I thought something was mad in the build-up is that there was obviously lots of coverage of their injury list relative to ours. Yeah. Because, we've got some big fucking players missing now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Sure. And of course they have. Yeah. I'm not denying that. But it just felt like that was completely unbalanced the way that was getting reported. But the other thing, when I saw the team they were starting with, and this ties into what you're saying about them playing like a promoted team. I couldn't be asked doing this myself, but if someone wants to, who's watching or listening, I haven't seen anyone do this. How much did their starting lineup cost? Do you know what I mean? They were playing the striker who they bought in the summer. I think they spent 70 odd million on him, didn't they? They were playing their goalie they've spent a fortune on. Rafa Varane was back. He spent a fortune on him. Luke Shaw played. Diego Dallo played. Amrabat played. And it's
Johnny Evans played.
But this is the funny thing, is it's like they focus on that. They focus on Johnny Evans is playing, so we've got to play like this. And you're like, lads, I don't really fucking get it, to be honest. There seems to be, other than with it, I don't watch loads of United content, and don't get me wrong, there are clearly United fans who do say this, and some people in the media, but I didn't think there was enough of this. That side was assembled at a lot of money still, even with their 100%. Fucking injuries.
They're not a championship side you've drawn in the FA Cup.
Yeah, so it's a fucking disgrace that they come and play like that. And in fairness to Neville, I listened to his podcast on the way in, as I often do, and he made a point of saying that at the end. He went, everyone's focusing on Liverpool being shit. Let's not get away from the fact that Man United were fucking awful, because any half decent side would have beat us. If we turn up against Arsenal the way we turned up on Sunday, we'll get absolutely fucking battered, won't we?
Well, and they feel enabled to come to Anfield, play like that and scrape a 0-0 and go away and say it's a good result by the fact that they've been shite. Yeah. As in a 0-0 at Anfield, well, that's better than what's come before when we were terrible. So this is slightly less terrible. So therefore it's tolerable, you know what I mean? People, I've said, people got a message off Phil earlier in the day saying, you're going to talk about that Keane stuff. I mean, for me, it's really simple. Toys out the pram. He's got a cob on because he's watched a poor United side scrape a 0-0 at Anfield and have to be happy with it. I didn't see anything in what Van Dijk said that was supposedly a problem. You know, what he said was a fair assessment and factual. There was only one team actually trying to win it. You know, they set up with everyone behind the ball, time wasting from the very start, fouling from the very start. Like, you know, I've got it here. Diaz had a shot blocked after 8 seconds. Liverpool won a corner after 16. And the first of Amrabat's fouls took 50 seconds. You know, and all that palaver over the goal kicks that they were doing. Like, I heard it, you know, it presented by the fella who works for TalkSport earlier in the day. He was like, I saw in the tunnel that Van Dijk had to go at their goalie saying, because of you, we've only played half an hour there. And he said, and he was a bit taken aback by that. And I thought, well, why are you turning that into a story? It's fair enough again, isn't it? They've been time wasting all the way through the game. Again, like as though there's some kind of plucky underdog or whatever. And look, you know, I get it. It's like a stick and plaster result for them. And like, you know, people can say I'm bitter or whatever, which they did do on Twitter last night. I'm not bitter. I just thought...
Bitter about what?
I know, yeah. Because they've got a 0-0. And I thought they'd tonk them.
Go on. Well, on that point, I was watching it on telly, obviously, and Keane was clearly just fucking triggered by what Van Dijk had 100%. Said, because Van Dijk was right. There was zero arrogance about what Van Dijk said. Van Dijk was very like beating us up. Do you know what I mean? It was our fault. We should have fucking beat them because they were shite. Like, if he could have sworn, that's what he'd been saying. They've turned up. They've tried to get a fucking draw. Like, their own... Keane's and I like Roy Keane, but he does this sometimes where he just picks up on a point. And I was absolutely made up that Daniel Sturridge stood up to him just in a very calm, measured way. And you could even tell Dave Jones, the host, like, was sitting there thinking, you're being a prick here, Roy. Do you know what I mean? There's no way. Calling Van Dijk arrogant, it's a bit like Hodgson the week before criticising Van Dijk for getting his player booked. You're criticising the wrong fella here, mate.
It's the chimp out the cage
it
stuff
is,
again, isn't it?
Chimp out the cage. He's unhappy because he knows what we've just been saying is right. That's a Man United side assembled with a fucking lot of money and all, you know, where are they fucking going? If I was a United fan, I'd be looking at that going, the fact we've come away from Anfield with a 0-0 draw and we're pleased with it.
I mean, someone's saying there in the comments, like, you know, we're just sort of taking the bait, and I get that. But, like, you know, we always talk about the media, don't we, and the football media, the general landscape of it. And I was talking about it on Twitter last night and saying, well, it's not just a case of that Keane just said it and then that's it. It's then clipped up. And, like, if you turn on Sky Sports News, as I did last night when I've got back from the match, that's the lead story. That he said that, and it's the same on the website, and then it's the same on 1,000,001 sports sites, and it's like absolutely everywhere. That's the top story, and it's because ultimately the game was shit.
Exactly, I was just about to say, and that's our fault.
Yeah,
we need to take responsibility for that, because if we'd have just fucking turned up and done anywhere near what we needed to do, that wouldn't have been the story, would it? No. The story would have been comfortable win for Liverpool against Man United, and that's what it should have been. And I think that's the sad thing, because going back to how you started the show. Yeah, everything has got to be in context for this side this season. And I saw you tweet during the weekend, I'm with you. Like, it's probably going to be one of those seasons where a fucking unbelievable points tally isn't needed to win the league. So if we don't win the league in that season, it's going to be frustrating.
Yeah.
Transition or no transition. Like this, look, the point I've just made about Man United, the money we've spent on our squad, the players we've got available to us, that's aside. We can get 90 points, and 90 points is probably enough to win the league this year. So let's just go and fucking do it, eh?
Yeah, let's
not have another season where Arsenal or fucking Villa could end up winning the league on 88 points and we'd be fucking kicking ourselves again like we were the season Leicester did.
So let's stay in there. Let's just keep going. I totally understand that people are saying things like, you know, the forwards haven't scored or the midfield balance doesn't look right and all of those things. But we've got players to come back. We've got Arsenal this weekend. I think Anfield are 5 on a Saturday. You know, that's absolute like bear pit stuff, especially like Christmas as well. There's loads of chat about the atmosphere and we'll come on and do a bit about that, I think, during the show today. But there shouldn't be a problem then. And if there is, then we have got a problem. Because we can't get up for R5 against Arsenal on a Saturday at Christmas, then we really have got a problem.
But even that, mate, the bit I do think falls into the, you know, I didn't see much of what fans were saying to each other in the build-up, but there wasn't we even said it on the, you know, we all expected, let's be honest, we all expected to comfortably beat Man United. And the closer we got to the game, the more uncomfortable I felt about that. Because it's like when you expect to comfortably beat Everton, at the end of the day, it's still Man United. And that's the point Keane was trying to make, but like in a weird way. We grew up in an era when United were dominant and we were shite compared to them, and we would fairly regularly beat them or get draws against them.
And it would be it wouldn't be in a dissimilar fashion.
Exactly.
You know, exactly. When we ended was it 10 years you went, wasn't it, at Old Trafford without winning, and then we had the couple of Danny Murphy winners and all that kind of stuff.
And we kept a clean sheet and nicked the goal, and they could have done that on Sunday. That's all part and parcel of what it is. And I think the problem was, you can tell me more about what the crowd was like because you were there, but it felt to me like if we'd have scored a goal early on, everything would have exploded. But that's what everyone went for. Everyone was going for we'll go early. And honestly, I wish...
I thought, though. They did go early.
Yeah, but we just didn't get the goal. That's the problem.
But he didn't keep it up either.
Yeah.
Nobody involved. None of the stakeholders involved, including the fans, kept up the start.
Exactly. But and I think that's where the expectations comes in. Because as soon as we didn't get an early goal, which is mad, by the way, because I wish I'd have thought of this before last week's show, because we'd have talked about it on then. I think we all forgot how last season's game went. The first half was actually quite tight.
6 goals in the second half, wasn't it?
We went 1-0 up just before half time. United were arguably the better side in the first half. And then we scored 6 in the second half. Yeah. I think we've all forgotten that. So we went into this game thinking, score early, fucking knock them off, they'll fall apart, and it'll be another fun day. And because that didn't happen, I think the crowd was flat. And I think then everybody just had a bad day. The crowd had a bad day. Pretty much every player had a bad day. And I think Klopp and Linders had a bad day as well with the changes they made and the way they did things.
Did it? I mean, you know, in terms of the start, I thought it was decent both in terms of, you know, the noise in the ground, the intensity of the start. I said there before that, you know, we had a shot blocked after 8 seconds. We forced 9 corners in the first half. But then it just sort of slowly but surely, it was the classic, like, you know, quiet in the crowd type performance from them, wasn't it? And then, you know, we didn't grab a goal and all the rest of it. And I think we got a bit in our own head. But as you just said there, you know, you're hard pressed really to highlight anyone who played well. I thought Endo did all right. I thought Virgil, you know, kept his form up. He looked decent again. I thought Simicast did all right, actually.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, like Trent, I thought like was trying to force it and was trying to be influential, but a lot of things didn't go right for him. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
But it's funny, isn't it? The players you've just named, apart from Van Dijk, but he's your centre-back. It's the point I often make about the season. Danny Murphy was our player of the season, and I always say that says more about the season than it does about Danny Murphy. When you're saying, like, the 2 players you've named, I was thinking this after the game, who played well. Endo did all right and Simicast did all right. Well, that sums up your problem, doesn't it? If the 2 lads you're naming are those 2 lads, and they did both do all right.
Had a stinker again.
He had a stinker. Mo Salah and him didn't seem like they could fucking string 2 passes together in the first half. Everybody else on the pitch, you're just like, lad, how many times did Trent overhit a cross? How many times did he overhit a pass? And you're looking at each other going... And
loads of like miscontrols, wasn't there? And the final ball was lacking so many times, and you were just like, what? Well,
but again, there was loads in it. And how many times have we seen... This is a pattern for Liverpool. It's funny how often you fall into the same trap. We see that we've got a midweek game that we don't need to play properly. And we all go, oh, that's great because we can rest. How often have we seen that now for us? This team is better. This side is better under Klopp when they just play and play and play and play. Actually, would we have been better off in hindsight? And this is very easy because I was, you know, hands up, I was saying last week, don't send anyone out there. Would we have been better sending all the lads, letting them play a fucking dead rubber, playing them, you know, half a game, whatever, and saying, get it, because we're not playing well. let's get some fucking goals back in this front line.
But then there was that classic, wasn't there, where Jota got injured.
Exactly.
And it was like, why are you playing him in a game like that?
And if you're Klopp, because that's what you'd be saying. Fucking hell, like, I can't win, can I? And you're like, and the answer to that is no, you can't, because the only way you win is if you actually win the game, and we didn't.
Thanks to Stevie Ray, who has thrown in $4.99 on the super chat, whatever it's called. I'll get it right one week. Thanks, says, mate. Virgil van Dijk is our captain. It's not always roses. I love this post-match needle. Good. Be upset. And he said, no more shaking hands after a hard challenge. Be awful. Yeah, that didn't go down well with a lot of the crowd. That was Simicast.
Is that the Simicast one?
Yeah.
I was thinking that.
It's like, chip that.
Tell him to fuck off. Yeah.
Klopp said after the game, we are exactly where we belong. If we say the performances in some parts are not convincing, it's my job to see the areas where we have to improve. Of course, we can improve. Now we're in a situation where we're really disappointed when we draw against United. That's a bit strange. My boys look to me to be ready to give it a proper try, and then we'll see what that means exactly. Liverpool as well missed out on a club record. They'd scored in 34 consecutive matches. They didn't manage the 35th with this goalless draw. In terms of actual chances, because, you know, I read, saw, heard, you know, a lot of sort of, you know, regurgitating of the stats post-match. And you know, a lot of people saying things like, 68% possession, 34 shots and all this kind of stuff. You know, when you look at it that way, and 12 corners to none and things like that, it does look like Liverpool absolutely dominated. I think more of the key stat though is big chances, one each. That's it. And like in terms of making something that actually counted, that was the problem, wasn't it?
And when this is
Trent
interesting,
is probably the one he should have scored.
I think what they should start doing with the stats, like, and it'd be interesting to see this, is put in what they all are. Like because I know which one is their big chance. It's their main strikes are the one-on-one with our keeper. Which was our big chance? Like, and
Trent, maybe? Because he should have put that in. He had all that side of the goals away.
Yeah, but that's from outside the box. Do you know what I mean? He's side footing from outside the box. So I think that's the biggest problem. We've talked in the past. There was a couple of headers, wasn't there, straight at the keeper as well? Yeah, but we've talked in the past about, like, Pep Linders years ago used to talk about creating chances that are 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And that's what we just didn't do yesterday. And I think if we'd have done that once, we'd have scored. That's the problem. And it was interesting the Klopp reference, the... people saying it was Diaz, 6-yard box. Remember that? Diaz 6-yard box? Oh, I know which one they mean, yeah. Where Nunes comes across and then it looked like, I don't know why Nunes seemed to give up on it as well. Oh, that one, yeah. Like there was a penalty claim. Yeah, it looked like he could have kept it in. Yeah, and he was too busy just gave up on it, arguing for the as it was rolling out. Yeah. Like, mate, just go and get the fucking ball and try and score. Yeah. Yeah, so that probably is the one. But Joe Klopp even mentioned and it is interesting, this, isn't it? Like the Fulham game where we score 4 screamers and he's basically like, I knew that'd come back to bite us. Because what that does is make your lads go, watch this, I can score more screamers. And this is where I used to have this argument with my dad all the time. My dad was just obsessed with shooting. Just shoot. And you're like, no. Stop shooting from outside the box all the time. I hate the people who shoot when he's like 40 yards away from goal. That's not how you become the best side in the world. Exactly. And Lovren's left the club now. We don't want to see any more of them. Exactly. and that's the problem. You could see, and it was funny the Klopp reference that like, Joe, you have a game where every single one of them flies in. And all of a sudden you're like, lad, everybody in this ground knows that the right pass here is Simicast running down the outside, because then he can fucking square it for a tap in. That's how we play football. And you've all seemed to have forgotten that for a game. And I don't know why. That's one of the things I've thought, actually. Like, there's a lot of focus on the forwards, isn't there? And the focus on, like Nunes is at 10 matches now without a goal and things like that. Yeah. And look, I get it, that is concerning. But equally, I don't exactly think they're carving out loads of chances for them. No. I mean, you can say that none of them are playing well, and I think that's probably fair. And there's Mo like doing miscontrols, which you wouldn't normally expect to see him doing, and things like that. But equally, like, it's not like loads and loads of good gilt-edged chances are being put on a plate for them and they're not finishing them. Not really creating them in the first place. No. Creating good quality chances. But this is where I do think the structure of the game was all wrong, and I think the subs were all wrong. But just go back to that point about, the stats, like 34 total shots. Carragher even made this point on telly. Like, what are you counting? Like, there were so many shots where Liverpool players were shooting and there was a United player standing right in front of them.
Yeah.
And they're just blocking the shot immediately. If that counts as a shot, you're like, well, that's bullshit, isn't it? Like, that's completely different. And the one that was interesting was we had 8 shots on target out of those 34. Did you see how many shots we had on target last year?
No.
8.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. And we scored 7. And like, but think about the goals last year where we were finishing from. Like, lots of them were in front of the right in front of the goal. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were creating real chances. So those shots were real 8, 9, 10 out of 10 chances.
34 though is right up there with the most shots in a Premier League game without scoring, according to Opta. So Chelsea had 39 against West Ham in 2014, United had 38 against Burnley October 2016, and 36 against Sunderland in April 2006. Arsenal had 35 against West Ham April 2007, and then in comes Liverpool. 34 versus Man United December 2023. I got into an interesting conversation by 2 lads that their opinions I value. I think they're both good in their own regards. Andrew Beasley, who regularly gets a shout out on here, and Joel Rabinovitz, formerly a contributor to the Anfield app, and then used to do some stuff for Liverpool.com as well. So Joel listed all the games played so far in the league. And he said, in how many of these games have Liverpool actually played convincingly across 90 minutes? Maybe 3, 4, 5 at a push. Can hardly remember a season quite like this where the results have been so much better than the performances. Andrew had replied to him saying, but yet they've been outplayed even less often. So at least there's a foundation. I think both those views are probably right, aren't they? It's like, there is and we touch on it every time we've done a show, there is like an unconvincing aspect. Did you read Carragher's piece? As usual, some people took umbrage and give him stick for it. I thought it was really fair. He wrote a piece pre-game in the Telegraph just talking about we don't quite know what Liverpool are still, and maybe this next week will tell us, because it's United and Arsenal at home, obviously West Ham sandwich in the middle. I thought it was entirely fair because I'm sort of like that.
Do you know what's that funny about that? Like, without reading the article and you just tell me the gist of it, I'm wondering how anyone can have a cob on with that general idea.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? It just proof again that you can't say or do anything online without someone having a cob on with it.
Because that is the story.
Isn't that the story?
Yeah.
And when you look at when that is the story, think about that. Like, Arsenal, what are they, 4 years into Arteta's project? They finished runners-up last year. They had a really good season. They've built on that by buying £100 million centre midfielder. They've bought a new goalie. And all right, you can argue about whether they bought the right players or not, but that's what they bought those players to win the league, to go from second to first. We're year 1 of our new project. And if we beat them on Saturday, we go top.
Yeah.
And if we'd have scored 1 goal yesterday, we'd have been top. Even without that, we're second in the league. So even though we don't know what the fuck we are yet, and we still don't have a proper number 6 in our team, in our squad. We've got question marks over a few different things. It's not a bad position to be in, is it?
It's not at all. And look, as I said, whatever Arsenal are and however good they are and all the rest of it, Arteta will, bear in mind Arteta's a manager who has previously had them, training with You'll Never Walk Alone playing and all that kind of madness to prep for Anfield, which is weird, isn't it?
He's a bit of an oddball, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I can't imagine he's, rubbing his hands together at the idea of Anfield at 5:30 on a Saturday night just before Christmas.
And look, and the counterpoint to what Klopp was saying about the 7-0, which I completely agreed with, coming off the back of 7-0 last year, there's only one side that does a favour to this year, isn't it? And that's United. Because they're fucking motivated to not get battered 7-0 again. Yeah. We're going in a bit confident. Arteta will be gutted that we drew and had a poor performance against United, because and not only just that the atmosphere was poor, and people have been pointing it out, the atmosphere was poor. Well, guess what? Reaction. He doesn't need a fucking reaction, does he? On a Saturday night before, as you said before, Saturday night at 5:30, weekend before Christmas. That was going to be wild enough as it is. Now the crowd's got a point to prove on Sky against it's number first and second in the league going head to head. It's huge.
In terms of the odds, we always mention them on here, don't we, and how they fluctuate. Liverpool have now sort of dropped a little bit and we're back out to being third favourites to win the title. City are 6-4, Arsenal 5-2, Liverpool 3-1, Aston Villa 16-1.
That's good odds on Villa, that though, isn't it? Don't you think? Because the closer we get to the transfer window, because Villa have got dough now, haven't they? And I keep looking at them thinking, if I'm Villa's owners, and I think this is something interesting to look at going into the transfer window, which club's owners in this season specifically say, go for it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's win the league. Because if I'm Aston Villa, I say, let's try and win the league this year. Because when are we ever going to get this fucking chance again? But if I'm Arsenal and the Liverpool owners, I'm doing the same thing. Like, we said this at the start of the season, not want to go over old ground. We apparently, I know people will be fucking triggered by me saying this because they don't believe it, but we apparently had 100 quid. Who can you get with that? Imagine.
Nicky Tanner.
Can you still get Ricky Lambert? Ricky, got 100 quid here. 100 million quid sitting there, apparently. So if I'm our owners, I'm like, let's go out and buy the players that will turn this side into the league winning side this year. But if I'm Villa, I'm doing that too.
It's notorious, like a bit of a shit window, though, isn't it?
I know, but people say that, don't they? But there's enough examples of players you've been able to get.
I think the shout about the centre half, where people are saying it feels like Liverpool will probably buy one anyway in the summer, so why not buy them now? I think if that's feasible in any way, whoever that might be, I think, yeah, why not? I mean, all that's going to ramp up now, isn't it? Excuse me, I am struggling with the flu. All that's going to ramp up now, isn't it? And we're into December, so, we're only a month away. So all the transfer gossip will start going through the roof.
Well, and look, that's my point is, it's going to be interesting to see what everyone does, isn't it? Yeah. Because if I'm an Arsenal fan, I'm thinking, go and buy us a boss goalie, go and buy us a striker, and we'll win the league this year.
And of course, people are shouting that we have bought good players in the January window and the right to do so, including Sturridge and Virgil, as Ian has said there. Sorry,
wasn't Suarez January?
I remember.
Wasn't the whole Torres thing a January thing? No.
Yeah, actually it was, wasn't it? I think so. Yeah, he went to Chelsea and we got him and Carroll. Yeah, because yeah, my voice is starting to go. I've been talking continuously for what is it now?
I was just thinking you've done well, considering you were nearly dying when you came in.
I know. I'm honestly so bad when I woke up this morning. What else? Yeah, people were just saying that Suarez was January. But yeah, the other thing as well, point I made when I was talking on Twitter last night as well, is there are 21 games to go. There's a long, long way to go. As you say, things can happen with January, but also things can happen in terms of, like, I referenced our injuries when I wrote a little sort of post-match long tweet thing. And, it was like, got the usual really intelligent responses like, lol, referencing injuries. And you're like, so you're saying Jota wouldn't have made a difference yesterday? You're saying Thiago. And some lad came back to me about Thiago. Why have you referenced Thiago? I said, do you not think he's a man that can unpick a low block? No. That's exactly what we got him for, isn't it?
I think that made it. Honestly, sometimes I see things on the internet. I'm like, sorry, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, what? It's like talking to a kid. It's like, sorry, you think we don't miss an unbelievable midfielder? Unless that person is like trying to make out that Thiago is not a good player. Like, is that their point? Thiago isn't a good player. Does anyone believe that? Thiago's one of the best centre midfielders I've ever seen in my life. I remember when we first signed him.
And like Robertson's
we were all fucking creaming ourselves off him. Robertson, and this is the thing about their injury list, United's injury list. Yeah, but look at our injury list. Robertson is arguably one of the best players in his position in world football. He's key to the way we play footy, and his replacement has done okay and has done, considering how he started, I think he's done really well. But he's a million miles off being as good as Andy Robertson.
Yeah, so there's a long way to go. I've got all the Keane stuff here, which we just ended up doing a little bit earlier in the show than a plan. But for anyone who sort of, missed it somehow, I mean, this is what Van Dijk says. He said, there's only one team trying to win the game. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. We want to win every game, especially a team like them. It's frustrating as we were superior in all aspects. They were just hoping on the counter-attack to hurt us. In the end, they're buzzing with a point and we are disappointed with the point. They aren't in the best phase, so coming here, you have to worry about the threat we have. But we should have won today. There are big games coming up and we won't dwell on it. And then he started giving it. There's a lot of arrogance coming out of him dissing Manchester United. He needs reminding that he's playing for a club that has won one title in 30 odd years. Isn't it one in 3-4 years? If we want to be a knobhead, Roy. Manchester United are in a difficult place, just like Liverpool have been in a difficult place for many years. So maybe the arrogance backfired on him today. He needs to remember where he's coming from. One title in 33 years. He said Man United were buzzing and one team came to play. Yeah, I've come to Anfield many times with Man United where Liverpool were in a tough place and we're happy to play with a draw. The bottom line is that the most important stat is the scoreline. Liverpool had chances, didn't take them. That's their own fault.
Just weird.
Yeah, weird.
Do you think?
Weird hill to die on, basically, yeah.
Like all those bits he's saying, like, yeah, we've played Liverpool loads and they were happy to get a draw. And like, yes, Roy. And in those games, we were buzzing that we got a draw. That's all he's saying. He's saying you were buzzing. He's saying you's a shit now. Have you seen? I know it's Paddy Power, and I don't like. I'm not a big fan of Paddy Power generally, but they do some funny things sometimes. Have you seen the ad? Someone sent it to us on Twitter, I think. The Paddy Power ad about the rehab centre for United fans having to learn that they're like shite now. It's not, and they're going to them like who's top of the charts, like Oasis and the Spice Girls. It's like, no, it's not the 90s anymore. And it feels like he needs that fucking training. Roy, just fucking calm down, mate. You're a shit.
Yeah, and you need to cop for it.
Yeah.
Dano's dropped £2, said respect to King Kenny for his award. Indeed. Nicholas Thompson has given $9.99. Says, guys, great work, love the channel, but our Reds were below par yesterday. Embarrassing passing. I like to stay positive, but Núñez needs a lot of work, and Endo ain't good enough. That feels harsh.
Well,
I thought he was all right yesterday.
I think he was all right, but I do think there's an ongoing issue here, which is if we had a top class number 6.
Endo
should be second choice to him, and which frees McAllister up. I know he's injured anyway, but McAllister being back for Arsenal would be huge because it does make a massive difference, that player in that position.
Though, isn't he?
Is he?
Well, I thought I'd seen somewhere that he was, it was more serious than initially expected.
Oh, okay. That's a blow if it is, but it'll be interesting if he goes with Endo again, or whether we just change it around a little bit. But something I wanted to ask you was, because I'm a bit perplexed by this, to use a dramatic word. I'm surprised by how Núñez has got ahead of Joe, considering the order last year and how we played and how we started the season. I'm a bit perplexed that Núñez, and I really like Núñez, that he stayed ahead of Gakpo. I'd have thought by now, Joe, 10 games without a goal, he's doing all right, and his link-up plays all right with Salah, but I'd have thought it was just worth the switch, giving Gakpo a little run.
Well, he had to go at Sheffield United and didn't do nothing, did he?
Yeah,
so, it's all swings and roundabouts. I would still argue potentially that the issue is actually creating the chances at the minute. I know what you mean, though. But he went with Jota, didn't he, in the week? So as soon as you saw that, you thought, well, that's the way, right? It's the same with, well, what's the team going to be against West Ham? Well, I imagine the lads who come on start. I mean, yeah. I would have thought Elliott might have been a shout, given that, he's on form, scored the winner.
That was more than the Gakpo Núñez thing. The thing that I was looking at that, again, the team and the performance, was if I'm Curtis, and look, we don't know what Curtis Jones fitness-wise sometimes is. I've criticised in the past and then realised, and then found out to Joe he's not been fit. But I think if you're Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott watching that, you're a bit like, I don't understand why we're not getting starts here. Because, yes, Szoboszlai was fucking brilliant. We all creamed off him at the start of the season. And we've seen Gravenberch can hit heights that maybe the others can't. But I just think consistently recently, they've not been that great. So if I'm Curtis Jones, I'm thinking, I deserve his spot right now. And if I'm Harvey Elliott especially, I'm like, I deserve a place in this team.
Yeah,
when you aren't creating.
Done, you know, because he's been great, hasn't he, off the bench. Mingles dropped us a £5. All right, lads, thanks
Nice
very
one,
much, mate. Have a good Crimbo as well. Would you say he was a TLC super fan?
Yeah, super level. He's super level, super subscriber and supporter, isn't he?
Love it. I think we do need to talk about atmosphere just because so many people are, and it was Mingle who come up with the. And I always forget what this is called.
Lad, do your he should do his fucking calculation for us, shouldn't
he? What you call it? Wow. Our collective memory. I mean, my memory is terrible. I wanted to say
algorithm then, but it's not algorithm. It's not algorithm. It begins with an A. It'll come back to us.
Put it in the comments, lad, and put us out of our misery.
What you should do is equation.
Equation, is that the word?
That'll do, won't it?
That'll do, yeah. He's done an
that's
equation.
That's not the word I was thinking of. But
Mingle about why atmosphere formula.
Formulas.
That's the one. Do, yeah. A formula on why atmospheres are what they are.
And what score and how you get a score. But United would have come out on his formula. United wouldn't come out as a good atmosphere.
I know, because it was a big match. It was a good time.
Yeah, but I've got a development for his formula then. Because he could have the actual score and the XG, couldn't he? Because the XG would be like...
The XG was still 2.3 for Liverpool.
No, I don't mean goals. I mean, do an XG for the atmosphere. Because so his formula is what you'd expect the atmosphere to be, isn't it?
Oh, right, I get you. Yeah.
And then so you do the expected atmosphere against the actual atmosphere. Because I think the expected atmosphere based on his formula. For people who don't know what we're talking about.
He's applying but algebraic formula.
Algebraic formula. Okay, stop trying to big it up.
I know, yeah. Look, I just jibbed maths and did English.
Do you know what's funny? For all the people watching and listening who don't know what the fuck we're talking about, they're like, lads.
Sums, I know, yeah, what he's going about. Yeah. Basically, the Mingle, who's there in the comments, who dropped it, super chat, super whatever it is, he made a little formula that we've talked about previously about all the influences on an atmosphere at Anfield, like quality of opposition, time of kickoff, this, that, and the other. But I think it would have. I think people were right to expect a decent.
Man United at home.
Man United at home, 58,000 there because the majority of the Annie Road was open now and all the rest of it. And look, I thought it started well. I thought you'll never walk alone, and the early exchanges were good. I'm in the back of the cop, so it's hard for me to say. I'm getting messages off people who are at home watching on the telly saying atmosphere is shite, and I'm like, well, I can't really tell. To me, it felt all right.
Yeah.
It definitely went quiet, but I thought that was sort of, influenced by the fact that the game was shite.
Yeah.
And that we were knocking on the door for so long without any return.
Was that in his formula, though? Because I've always thought this about the greatest atmosphere I've ever been in, the Chelsea home game in 2005. And it started out great before the game, and we scored very early. And scoring very early just sets off those atmospheres, doesn't it? But the longer you go without a goal,
I think there was a pressure. It felt like there was a pressure, maybe. I just think there's probably 1,000,001 things you could level here. Well, not 1,000,001, but certainly a good few. So I wonder whether City drawing added the pressure, to the game. And I mean, on the field and in the stands as well, because you're like, they've dropped points. This is our big opportunity. They're shite. And then it's all a bit of a why aren't we doing it? The crap. Why aren't we winning? Fuck's sake.
But then also, I think the other thing was, we went into the game.
Loads of frustration in the ground.
But I think the other part of that was in the build-up to the game, we're going in thinking we're top of the league. But by the time we kicked off, we were third. And I don't think we knew. Well, I definitely hadn't thought of that. That by the time we play, we'll have moved. So I think going into it, that added extra pressure as well, because now all of a sudden if we don't win, we don't go top.
So often though, and it's if I talk about where I am, well, and I've said this 1,000,001 times, there's loads of old asses on the cop. I'm not fucking young myself, and I'm on there. And don't get me wrong, I'll sing and shout and get involved, but if everyone else isn't, do you know what I mean? If it's just not there, you can't just do it on your Todd, can you? And I think for United, what keeps happening and has happened for a long time, and from my sample pool, if you like, of where I am, loads of people have flogged the fucking tickets again.
Yeah.
So do you know what? Stop doing that, eh? Stop like flogging your ticket for 300 quid to someone who wants to tick off on a bucket list that they've seen Liverpool, and fucking go yourself and get behind the side yourself. How about that? And I think not being a route or an easy route for younger people to get in the ground is a problem as well. And it's a problem I'm seeing myself with my 15-year-old son who wants to go but just can't go on a regular basis. And what games can I get him a ticket from or blag him a ticket for? Well, it's like Europa League games, or does he want one for West Ham in the League Cup? It's not United, it's not Newcastle, it's not the big ones. And I think that plays a part. The age of the crowd plays a part. I think there's a level of being... I was thinking about it last night, and I was thinking, is there a level of being spoiled a bit as well?
Yeah.
Because, we did on here the other week at length, didn't we, about how brilliant we've been at home for a long time now. So is there a bit of a blasé, just fucking turn up and win?
Well, I think that played out in the game. The times on telly, when you watch it on telly, the times when it sounded like the crowd got most animated was when United looked like they might fucking score. And it was like it reminded us we could get beat here. Like, this isn't just you turn up and beat Man United. They could beat us. And that sort of kicked us into gear. And I know this sounds mad, but there was a part of me actually thought with 20 minutes left, maybe them scoring would help us. Like, maybe there's been a thing this season. We keep having these comebacks, but maybe there's a weird psychological thing going on where we need that goal to kick us into gear. We've seen that with City in the past, haven't we? Like, I remember in the last game of the season when we were going for the quadruple, and they were playing Villa at home, and Villa went 2-0 up. And I remember saying to me, mate, it's too early. It's too early. They've given them too long to get back into it, because all you've done is made them angry. And we've seen that a number of times now. And I know that's a bit of a mad thing to say, considering we weren't playing very well. But we've had that a couple of times this season where we've been poor, we've conceded a goal, and then it's like they've looked at each other and gone, fucking, I need to sort this out, lads. And there's just been a bit more of that urgency, and it's like focused their minds a bit more. I just think there were loads of different factors going into yesterday's game that didn't help us. And I think if they played it again, they would do it differently. Do you know what I mean? There would be a big chat before the game, just because there's always that chicken and egg thing, isn't it, about the crowd and the performance. But I'll often come back to, if I'm the manager of that side, I'm saying to them, you should be able to beat this Man United side without the crowd today. Like, Joe, if you just stop, how many times during the whole game, and Gakpo did annoy me when he came on, actually, because there was an opportunity, and Elliott, they both came on and both immediately sank into there, having shots from distance, mould, whereas they've had the opportunity to watch from the bench. They should have been coming on going, lads, extra passes, come on, let's play that extra pass. And they all fell into that straight away. And I just think that's the most frustrating thing, is that if just on 3 occasions we'd have made the right pass, we'd have won the game. And all of this would have been moot then. Do you know what I mean?
I know. And it is the thing as well. I mean, like, that constant chicken and the egg thing as well, isn't it? Of like, okay, everyone wants like the raucous, feral crowd, and we talk about it all the time, but that just doesn't happen as often as people think, and probably didn't happen as often as people think in the past either.
No.
We can all get a bit romantic about that, but also if the game's shit, like, that's always been a thing as well, that it'll seeing the players, like, and obviously that then turns into like a bit of a meme, like, well, Trent thought it needed ramping up because here he is going like that.
Yeah, but that's all well and good, isn't it? Like, and it is chicken and egg. Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to literally say that. I was going to say, so what yours... I thought the crowd had to go 15, 20 minutes or whatever and was decent. Equally, the team the same. It was high intensity, the start of it, but they dropped off, and then so did the crowd.
Yeah, and it's all well and good Trent going, come on, and you're like, Trent, your performance is about 5 out of 10 here right now. Step up your game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, stop putting your crosses out of play.
Well, again, Joe, yesterday's game, sitting watching from home, was like, for the past 20 years, it was textbook Liverpool not playing well performance. What we always do the same things when we're not playing well, and it's probably not just us. City, I've watched City a couple of times when they're struggling, which is, very rare, but they were doing it this season. What do we revert to doing? Everyone's focused on the shooting from outside the box, but the other thing we revert to doing is just crossing the ball.
Yeah.
Cross. And you're like, lads, they're happy with you to cross it today. Don't stop crossing it from there. Get down the side, start making some triangles, start playing the overlaps. There just wasn't enough composure. And it is funny when people like Trent are doing to the crowd.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, that's the
I
disappointing thing, yeah.
I think Trent should score that one. I know you're saying it's outside the box, but I just think, player of his ability, all of that goal to Raymer, I don't know. He should have scored.
I think what's always interesting
we had
is,
enough, didn't we?
Do you know, I'm watching that game and you're watching that game, and I guess when you finished the game, you're like, that was shite.
Yeah.
But then Klopp's post-match interview was, that's the best counter-pressing we've done all season. It's the best I've seen this side do. I'm all right with it all. Because if we'd have scored a goal, you'd all be talking differently.
Yeah, I know.
And you're like, yeah, that's the mad thing about footy, isn't it? The scoreline controls the narrative completely.
A couple of people mentioned things that are on the desk. So, yes, that is the Lars right there. And also someone's added a bit of love for you. They're into your cup, lad.
Oh, thanks. This is another present from a subscriber. If you're not onto our... we talk about it on the main show, don't we?
Yeah, which isn't out yet.
Yeah, that'll be out on Wednesday in our time travel recording studio. Yeah, so tune into that and you can find out all about the cup. But thank you, Dylan, again, if you're watching.
James Pearson, the Athletic, did do sort of, honed in on the forwards, saying you have to go back to the 3-0 home win over Brentford 5 weeks ago for the last time one of the forwards other than Salah scored in the Premier League. That was Jota, who's obviously been out and remains out. And even though he's been out for 6 matches with a hamstring injury, he's still Liverpool's second top scorer this season with 8 in all comps. Núñez, a goal drought of now 10 appearances as well. Diaz as well is another one whose only goal in his last 8 was against Lask in the Europa League. Cody Gakpo, another one as well. No composure, snatching at chances, a free header late on, badly misplaced. And again, like I said to you before, I get, why James writes that piece, because he's got a job to do. He's got to focus on something. He's got to try and, say or do something new. And that's the case for everyone in the media. But I would still say, yeah, all of those aren't great. And I think Diaz is someone I've been a little bit worried about, is struggling a bit. But, it's behind them as well, isn't it? Szoboszlai, it's Szoboszlai to get hooked as well. You're like, is this where we've reached now? Trent, who I mentioned before. And it is a concern now, I think, as well, that, Gravenberg's going off injured. McAllister's already out. I mean, you said before, if you're Elliott or Jones, you might be looking at it saying, well, why aren't I getting a go? I think they're going to get a go now by default.
Yeah, well, and it's funny, isn't it? Because looking at our bench yesterday, all of a sudden, it's not as strong as you'd like. And it completely passed me by until a week or so ago that we lose Salah in January to the Africa Cup of Nations, don't we? Which is huge when you look at this. And the flip side of all of this is, which is always is it glass, we've mentioned this a couple of times now, is it glass half full or glass half empty? Depends on what happens next. Because it's not that long ago that we were raving off the number of goals our front 5 had scored and how many, and then all of a sudden, and this is typical footy, isn't it? Just at the point we're raving off how great they are, all the goals dry up. But the flip side of that is they can come back again. So I do think it's a big deal how long McAllister's out for. So it'd be interesting to see what that is. I hope it doesn't turn into, I hate it when we get these injuries that you think are going to be 2 weeks and then turn into 6 months. I hate it when we get them and they just seem to that's happened to Thiago a few times where you're like, sorry, wasn't this just an innocuous injury and he's back? And they're like, every 2 weeks, it'll be another couple of weeks. And then months later, you're like, where the fuck have they been?
Because Bajcetic is another one as well, isn't he? Where you're like, well,
just disappeared.
When's he coming back?
And he was,
he was decent.
Yeah, he was boss, and he kick on in that position.
You wouldn't have minded seeing him at times this season already.
Exactly.
I mean, we've still got the best goal difference. We're on 21. Arsenal are on 20. Villa 16. City 20. So, things aren't too bad in that respect. I would still say as well that, I mean, I know Carragher made a comment in the other week that he feels like Alisson and Van Dijk are bailing us out at times. But regardless,
it's a weird one, that, isn't it? Because that's their job.
That's what they're meant to do, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone says this, when you listen to senior coaches, like, of course, the other side are going to have chances. The whole point of having a boss goalie is he'll save you in those moments. And that's the bit where I am just a little... I'm torn, don't get me wrong. Like, my head wants to say we won't win the league, but my heart is still doing it. But you're saying there's a chance. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
because,
100%, yeah.
Because for all we said before about Arsenal are 4 years into their project, or 5 years, whatever it is, they still don't have a boss keeper and they don't have a boss striker.
Well, it's just weird what he's done with the keepers, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're only a point ahead of us.
Yeah.
And think of this debate. Think about all of this conversation we're having, and we're 1 point off the top of the league. And if we beat Arsenal at home next week, we go top into Christmas. Like, fucking hell, lads. Talk about...
And if we beat West Ham, we're in the semis of the League Cup, and we're through to the next stage of the Europa League.
Yeah. Talk about first world problems. Do you know what I mean? But this sums up Liverpool, doesn't it? This sums up Liverpool and Liverpool fans. Like, it's not good enough. Like, isn't it though? There's literally only one other team in the Premier League that wouldn't swap places with us right now. And we're still fucking moaning about everything.
Yeah. And like, Villa are getting a lot of praise, but, they did come to Anfield and get beat 3-0.
Yeah.
And
they're not playing they're not playing...
I've even seen that presented as, that was them though. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was like, they didn't turn up that day.
Yeah.
Like, well...
Yeah, which way round do you want to look at it all the time?
We can only sort out what's in front of us, can't we? Liverpool's upcoming fixtures, as I mentioned before, West Ham in the League Cup Wednesday night, followed by Saturday, Liverpool v Arsenal. Then we go to Burnley on Boxing Day, followed by Newcastle New Year's Day.
And for all the moans about the fixture list, our rivals could have a little complaint about that, couldn't they? I was looking at the fixtures the other day, I was like, is that right? We get a little break there between Boxing Day and New Year's Day. Everyone else is playing before then, I think.
Well, there is meant to be like a week off, isn't there? That's like the little winter breaky thing that they come up with, wasn't it?
Is there there's an actual break after that? There isn't that after the 7th?
I'm not sure.
Is that
you're doing that thing
break?
Where you're asking me questions.
We don't know the answers. I know. But anyway, like,
and now we've got to fill while
even just like the normal fixture list, we've got more days off than everybody else in that little spell, I'm sure. So that's still a good run of fixtures, do you know what I mean? And we said coming into this run, post City, I think, we should be winning all these games. And all right, we've dropped points against Man United here, but we've still got an opportunity to beat West Ham to get into the semis, beat Arsenal, away to Burnley, you should be winning that game, shouldn't you? And then home to Newcastle. And if you win all those games, then you're going into the FA Cup on the 7th, away to Arsenal. I think people will be less arsed about that game then, because you've already got semi-final of one cup competition, quarter-final or last 16 of the Europa League, and well placed in the league. I think, is this a bad season to go out the FA Cup in the 3rd round?
Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll just win the lot.
Imagine that. Imagine if we did a I was going to say the quadruple then, but it goes back to your point before. People would be like, not the real quadruple, is it? But imagine if we just won it quietly after the big furore around the couple of seasons ago. That'd be funny.
I think we'll leave it there. I've been absolutely struggling with flu all day.
Well done, mate.
Dragged myself in, been smashing
whatever drugs he's got in that little...
The Albus oil and Lemsip has saw me through this marathon of podcasts. So today was obviously live at 5. The late challenge will be out on Wednesday. Is that correct? Wednesday.
Yeah.
The Patreon show will follow. We're back in the studio on Thursday as well, recording a couple of more shows as well, so they'll be out too. And then we're back in the studio to do another footy related one over Christmas at some point.
This one will still be live, but it'll be on the 29th, I think.
Is that right?
I think so.
Look out, we'll publicise it, But yeah, thanks to everyone who supported us over the last year, who's jumped on these lives, who's watched the videos generally, who's listened to the podcast, who's liked everything, who's subscribed to stuff, who's jumped on the Patreon as well, which is where, all that's the one that most helps to support what we're doing and pay for the studio and all that kind of stuff. Thanks as well to everyone who jumps in and does the super chat, super like, whatever it's called. Someone in there said it wasn't for them. It sounded a bit noncy. I don't quite know how that works. No, super like or super chat. He just wasn't into the phraseology. So it's not for him.
I prefer that if it was a comment about the show. You two are not for me, lads. Bit noncy.
But yeah, hopefully the Reds will be back in a bit of form at the weekend. I am looking forward to West Ham and to Arsenal. Let's get in the semi-finals of the League Cup. Let's beat Arsenal and go back to the league, to the top of the league. Let's all have a boss Christmas and New Year. And yeah, let's keep on getting behind the Reds. Bring your shouting voice for that Arsenal game if you're going. And yeah, look out for our stuff coming up the next few weeks as well. We'll still be doing stuff. We'll still be around. And hopefully next time, I won't have the fucking flu. Up the Reds.